I was dead on my feet, dragging myself through Denver International like a zombie. The mine inspection had gone to hell, and my career was hanging by a thread. 3 months of environmental assessments down the drain because some corporate suits decided geology was optional. Flight 447 to Casablanca, now boarding. I shuffled toward gate B12, my laptop bag weighing a ton. Morocco wasn't exactly my dream destination, but when you're a mining engineer running from your failures, any job beats unemployment. The Sahara Project was my last shot at redemption. The plane was packed, naturally. I squeezed down the narrow aisle, checking seat numbers. 23A should be right about... Damn. A woman sat in my seat. Brunette hair pulled back in a perfect bun, designer suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She was typing furiously on her phone, completely oblivious to my presence. "Excuse me," I said, holding up my boarding pass. "I think you're in my seat." She looked up and I froze. Green eyes like emeralds, sharp and intelligent. For a second, neither of us spoke. "I'm sorry?" Her voice was smooth, authoritative, the kind of voice that closed million-dollar deals. 23A. That's my seat. She glanced at her own ticket, frowning. "This is ridiculous. I specifically requested first class." The flight attendant appeared beside us, all fake smiles and forced cheer. "Ladies, is there a problem?" "There's been some mistake," the brunette said. "I'm Erin Powell, CEO of Powell Mining Corporation. I always fly first class." My blood went cold. Powell Mining. The same company that had been fighting my environmental reports for the past 6 months. The corporation that wanted to strip mine half of Colorado without regard for water tables or wildlife. "I'm afraid first class is completely booked tonight, Ms. Powell," the attendant said. "We've had several passengers rerouted due to weather delays. Your assistant must have made an error when rebooking." Erin's jaw tightened. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. "Look, I'll take the middle seat," I offered, surprising myself. Maybe I was feeling generous. Or maybe I was just too tired to fight. "That's very kind," Erin said, sliding over to the window. "Thank you." I settled into 23 Billions, acutely aware of her presence beside me. She smelled like expensive perfume and determination. Her fingers flew across her phone screen, probably making someone's life miserable. The plane lurched into motion, and I closed my eyes, trying to forget the disaster in Denver. The mining company there had rejected every single one of my recommendations. Safety protocols, environmental safeguards, worker protection measures, all tossed aside for profit margins. "Rough day?" Erin's voice cut through my brooding. I opened my eyes. She was watching me with those penetrating green eyes, her phone finally set aside. "You could say that. I wasn't about to share my problems with the enemy. I know the feeling. Sometimes I wonder why I got into this business." She gestured vaguely at her laptop. "Mining used to mean something different. My grandfather started with a pickaxe and a dream." I studied her face, looking for the lie, but she seemed genuinely reflective, almost vulnerable. "What changed?" I asked, despite myself. "Scale, shareholders, the endless hunger for more." She shrugged. "Now it's all about quarterly reports and stock prices." The plane hit turbulence, throwing us sideways. Erin's hand shot out, gripping my arm for balance. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through me. "Sorry," she murmured, but didn't immediately let go. Our eyes met, and something shifted in the stale airplane air. This woman was supposed to be my professional nemesis, but sitting this close, feeling the warmth of her touch, all I could think about was how her lips might taste. The moment stretched between us, electric and impossible. The turbulence got worse. The plane bucked like an angry horse, sending passengers grabbing for armrests. Erin's grip on my arm tightened, and suddenly we were pressed together, her shoulder against mine, her breath warm on my cheek. "This is insane," she whispered. I turned to look at her, and our faces were inches apart. Those green eyes held mine, and I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, pure electric attraction. "Are you always this calm in crisis?" she asked, her voice barely audible over the engine noise. "Only when I'm sitting next to beautiful women who hate everything I stand for." She blinked, surprised. "What do you mean?" I pulled out my business card, watching her expression change as she read it. "Thea Cooper, environmental mining consultant. I'm the one who's been blocking your Colorado expansion." Her face went through several emotions: shock, anger, then something that looked almost like admiration. "You're the one who wrote that scathing report about our water impact assessments?" "Guilty as charged." She leaned back in her seat, studying me with new interest. I read every word, twice. "You made some compelling arguments about aquifer contamination." I was floored. Most executives dismissed my reports without reading past the summary. "You actually read it?" "I read everything that crosses my desk, especially when it's written by someone who clearly knows what they're talking about." She paused, then added quietly, "Your recommendations weren't entirely unreasonable." The plane leveled out, but neither of us moved apart. We were still sitting closer than strangers should, and I could feel the heat radiating from her body. "So, what are you doing flying to Morocco?" I asked. "Same reason as you, I imagine. The Sahara Project. We're partnering with a local operation there." My heart sank. Of course we'd be working in the same place. The universe had a twisted sense of humor. "This is going to be complicated," I muttered. "Why?" She turned to face me fully, and I caught a hint of something playful in her expression. "Are you planning to shut down our operation there too?" "If it's destroying the environment, absolutely." She laughed, a rich sound that made my pulse quicken. I'd expect nothing less from the woman who called our safety protocols criminally negligent in a federal filing. They were. "I know." Her admission surprised us both. "We've implemented most of your suggestions since then." I stared at her. "Seriously?" "Board fought me on it. Said you were just another tree hugger with an agenda." She met my eyes. "But you were right about the groundwater contamination. We couldn't ignore the data." Something warm bloomed in my chest. When was the last time a corporate executive had actually listened to my recommendations? "Thank you," I said simply. "Don't thank me yet. There's still the Morocco situation to navigate." The flight attendant appeared with drinks. Aaron ordered wine, I stuck with coffee. As the cabin lights dimmed around us, our conversation shifted to more personal territory. "Can I ask you something?" Aaron said, swirling her wine. "What got you into mining? It's not exactly a traditional career path for women." "My geology professor in college. She told me the Earth has secrets, and mining engineers are the detectives who uncover them." I smiled at the memory. Plus, I liked the idea of working somewhere men didn't expect to see me. Rebellious streak? Something like that. "What about you? Always destined for the corner office?" "Hardly. I wanted to be a marine biologist." She laughed at my expression. "I know, right? From studying coral reefs to strip mining. My father had other plans." "Powell Mining is a family business?" "Third generation. Dad groomed me from birth to take over. Even sent me to business school instead of letting me pursue oceanography." There was real sadness in her voice. "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd been brave enough to follow my own path." Our knees bumped as she shifted in her seat, and neither of us pulled away. The airplane cabin felt smaller, more intimate in the dim lighting. "It's not too late," I said softly. "You could still make changes, use your position to do better." "Like implementing the recommendations of stubborn environmental consultants?" "Exactly like that." She was quiet for a moment, studying my face in the blue glow of the overhead reading light. Then, without warning, she leaned closer. "Thea," she whispered, and I felt her breath against my lips. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was crazy. She was my professional opponent, probably straight, definitely complicated. But when she closed the distance between us and pressed her mouth to mine, all rational thought disappeared. The kiss was soft, tentative, questioning. I answered by kissing her back, tasting wine and possibility on her lips. We broke apart as the plane began its descent, both breathing hard. Erin's cheeks were flushed, her perfect composure finally cracked. I touched my lips, still feeling the warmth of hers. "That was..." she started. "Unexpected," I finished. The landing announcement crackled overhead, saving us from the awkward conversation. We both fumbled for our seatbelts, avoiding eye contact like teenagers caught making out. Casablanca's airport was chaos. The winter air hit us as we walked across the tarmac, dry and surprisingly cold. I pulled my jacket tighter and followed the crowd toward customs. Erin walked beside me, her heels clicking on the concrete. Neither of us had mentioned the kiss, but I could feel the tension crackling between us like static electricity. "Where are you staying?" she asked as we waited in the immigration line. Some company housing near the mine site. You? The Sofitel downtown, for tonight anyway. She glanced at me sideways. We could share a taxi if you want, save money. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Sharing anything with Aaron Powell seemed dangerous right now. The taxi driver spoke broken English and chain-smoked his way through Casablanca traffic. Aaron sat close enough that I could smell her perfume again, feel the heat of her thigh against mine. Tell me about the Sahara project, she said quietly. What do you know? Copper deposits mostly, some rare earth elements. The environmental impact assessment was rushed, probably illegal. I watched her reaction. Your company's involved in fast-tracking permits. Not my call. The board made that decision before consulting me. But you could stop it. Could I? Her green eyes met mine in the taxi's dim interior. You think I have that much power? You're the CEO of a publicly traded company with shareholders breathing down my neck. They want profits, not environmental consciousness. The taxi turned onto a highway leading out of the city. Desert stretched on both sides, empty and vast under the winter sun. My grandfather would have hated what we've become, Aaron continued. He used to say mining was about finding treasures the earth wanted to share. Now it's just extraction and exploitation. I studied her profile as she stared out the window. You really miss marine biology, don't you? Every damn day. The taxi driver's radio crackled with Arabic news. He turned it up, frowning at whatever he was hearing. Something wrong? Aaron asked. Police, he said in heavily accented English. Looking for terrorist. Very dangerous woman. My blood chilled. What kind of terrorist? Environmental crazy, bombs mining operations. He glanced at us in the rearview mirror. American woman, maybe your age. Aaron and I exchanged looks. Environmental terrorists targeting mines. This couldn't be coincidence. We reached the mining facility as the sun was setting. The compound looked like a small military base, high fences, guard towers, prefab buildings scattered across the desert. Not exactly the romantic getaway location. Miss Powell? A security guard approached our taxi. We've been expecting you. There's been a situation. What kind of situation? Aaron stepped out, immediately shifting into CEO mode. Police are here. They're investigating some kind of security threat. Everyone needs to check in with the main office. I climbed out of the taxi, shouldering my bag. The desert wind cut through my jacket, carrying the scent of sand and machinery. The main office building was buzzing with activity. Uniformed police officers questioned workers while officials in suits huddled around computer screens. Papers, please. A police officer approached me as we entered. I handed over my passport, trying to look calm. The officer studied my photo, then looked at me more carefully. Thea Cooper? He said slowly. Yes. He spoke rapidly into his radio, still staring at me. Other officers turned our way. There's been a mistake, Aaron said quickly. Ms. Cooper is here as an environmental consultant. We need you to come with us, Ms. Cooper, the officer said, moving closer. For questioning. Panic shot through me like ice water. What's this about? You match the description of a wanted terrorist, environmental extremist responsible for bombing 3 mining operations. That's ridiculous, Aaron snapped. I've been traveling with her. She couldn't possibly be involved in any terrorist activities. But more officers were surrounding us now. I could see the suspicion in their eyes, the way their hands hovered near their weapons. This was going south fast. We can sort this out at the station, the lead officer said. Please come quietly. I looked at Aaron, saw the fear and determination in her green eyes. She stepped closer to me, and I felt her hand brush mine. Run, she whispered. What? When I cause a distraction, go for the back exit. My rental car keys are in my purse. Aaron, no. Trust me. She suddenly stumbled forward, crying out as if in pain. My ankle! I think I twisted it getting out of the taxi. As the officers rushed to help her, I bolted for the rear door. Behind me, I heard shouting, but I didn't look back. The desert stretched ahead, dark and endless under the rising moon. I crashed through the desert sage, my lungs burning in the cold air. Behind me, searchlights swept the compound while engines roared to life. They'd be coming for me soon. The rental car sat in the parking area, a white sedan gleaming under the security lights. I prayed Erin's keys were where she said they'd be. My hands shook as I rifled through her purse. Wallet, phone, lipstick, and finally car keys. The engine turned over on the first try. I floored it toward the main road, headlights off, navigating by moonlight. In the rearview mirror, the mining facility blazed with activity. Erin was probably being questioned now, maybe arrested for helping me escape. The thought made my stomach clench with guilt. 20 minutes later, headlights appeared behind me. Getting closer fast. I took the next turnoff, a dirt track leading deeper into the desert. The sedan bounced over rocks and ruts, not built for off-road adventure, but it was better than handcuffs. The headlights behind me hesitated at the turnoff, then disappeared. For now. I drove until the fuel gauge hit quarter tank, then pulled into a cluster of abandoned buildings, some old mining operation, long since stripped and forgotten. Perfect hiding spot. The silence was deafening after hours of engine noise. I sat in the car shivering, trying to process what had happened. 24 hours ago, I was a consulting engineer with career problems. Now I was an international fugitive. A tap on the passenger window nearly stopped my heart. Erin stood there in the moonlight, her perfect hair messed up, her suit jacket torn. I unlocked the door and she slid in, breathing hard. "How did you find me?" I asked. "GPS tracker on the rental." She held up her phone. "Corporate paranoia has its advantages. You followed me. Are you insane? They'll think you're part of this." "They already do." She touched a bruise on her cheek. "The questioning got intense after you left. Damn it, Erin, you should have stayed. Let them sort this out. And leave you alone in the desert? Not happening." We stared at each other in the dim car interior. The kiss on the airplane felt like a lifetime ago. "Why?" I asked quietly. "Why risk everything for someone you barely know?" "Because..." She looked away, then back at me. "Because I've spent my whole life playing it safe, following rules, meeting expectations, being the good corporate daughter. And for what? A corner office and a board full of men who treat me like an expensive secretary?" She reached over and took my hand. "You were right, back in Denver. About the mining practices, the environmental damage, all of it. I've been lying to myself, pretending I could change things from the inside." Her voice cracked slightly. "But seeing you run tonight, watching them hunt you like an animal, it made me realize some things are worth fighting for." The abandoned buildings around us creaked in the wind. I squeezed her hand, drawing strength from her touch. "We need shelter," I said. "It's getting cold." The largest building had most of its roof intact. We found a corner protected from the wind and huddled together for warmth. Erin's body pressed against mine, sharing heat in the frigid desert night. "Tell me about yourself," she whispered. "The real stuff, not the work resume." "What do you want to know?" "Everything. Your childhood, your dreams, what makes you laugh." Her breath was warm against my neck. "Whether you've always known you were attracted to women." The personal question hung in the air between us. "College," I admitted. "My geology lab partner. She was brilliant, fearless, gorgeous. I spent more time staring at her than at rock samples." "What happened?" "She was straight, married her boyfriend after graduation, and moved to Texas." I shifted closer to Erin's warmth. "What about you?" "I always knew, but I buried it deep. Family expectations, board image, all that corporate nonsense." Her fingers found mine in the darkness. "Until tonight, I'd never kissed a woman outside my fantasies." "How was it?" "Terrifying, exhilarating, everything I'd been missing." We lay there in comfortable silence, listening to the desert wind. Above us, stars blazed in the clear winter sky, more brilliant than any city dweller ever sees. "We can't stay here," I said eventually. "I know. But for now, can we just pretend we're not running for our lives?" I turned to face her, studying the planes of her face in the starlight. She was beautiful in a way that made my chest tight. "Erin?" "Yeah?" "I'm glad you followed me." She smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from her. "Me too." Our lips met again, softer this time, less desperate. Her mouth was warm and willing, and when she deepened the kiss, I felt something fundamental shift inside me. Whatever happened tomorrow, arrest, escape, disaster, tonight, we had this. Two women alone under an infinite sky, finding something real in the midst of chaos. Dawn broke cold and unforgiving across the desert. I woke pressed against Erin's warmth, her arm around my waist, her face peaceful in sleep. For a moment, I forgot we were fugitives. The sound of helicopter rotors in the distance shattered that illusion. Erin. I shook her gently. We need to move. She opened those green eyes, instantly alert. The helicopter noise was getting closer. How long do you think we have? She asked, already gathering her things. Not long enough. We made it to the car as the helicopter appeared over the ridge. I gunned the engine, kicking up dust clouds as we fled deeper into the desert. Where are we going? Erin asked, checking her phone. I don't know. Away from here. I have an idea. She pulled up a map on her phone. Powell Mining has a maintenance station about 50 miles north. Remote, rarely used. We could hide there while I do some digging. Digging? Into who's really behind these bombings. Someone framed you, and I'm going to find out who. The maintenance station was a small concrete building surrounded by equipment sheds, sitting alone in a valley between two ridges. Perfect isolation. Erin used her corporate access codes to get us inside. The place was stocked with emergency supplies, food, water, communications equipment. Welcome to your temporary safe house, she said, locking the door behind us. I collapsed onto a cot, exhaustion hitting me like a hammer. I can't believe this is my life now. Hey. Erin sat beside me, her hand finding mine. We'll figure this out. I won't let them destroy you. The fierce protectiveness in her voice made my heart race. This powerful, successful woman was risking everything for me. Why? I asked again. Really, why? Instead of answering with words, she leaned down and kissed me. Deeper this time, her lips parting against mine. I could taste desperation and desire in equal measure. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. Because you make me feel alive for the first time in years, she whispered against my lips. Because when I'm with you, I remember who I wanted to be before the world told me who I should be. Her hands framed my face, thumbs stroking my cheekbones. The gentleness of the gesture contrasted with the intensity in her eyes. Thea, I know this is crazy. We're in the middle of nowhere, running from the law, and I barely know you, but I can't ignore what's happening between us. I pulled her down onto the narrow cot with me, needing to feel her weight, her warmth. She settled against me, her body fitting perfectly along my side. I've never felt anything like this, I admitted. This connection, this pull toward you. It scares me. Good scared or bad scared? Both. We lay there holding each other as the afternoon sun beat down on the metal roof. Erin's fingers traced patterns on my arm, and every touch sent electricity through my nervous system. Tell me what you're thinking, she murmured. That we shouldn't be doing this. That you have too much to lose. That I'm a terrible influence on your life. What else? That I don't care about any of those things right now. She laughed softly, the sound vibrating against my chest. Good. Because I don't either. Her hand slipped under my shirt, palm flat against my stomach. The touch was innocent but somehow incredibly intimate. I felt my breath catch. Erin, tell me to stop if you want me to stop. I didn't want her to stop. I wanted her hands on me, wanted to explore every inch of her skin, wanted to forget about everything except this moment. When she kissed me again, I let myself fall into it completely. Her mouth was soft and demanding, her body warm and willing against mine. We moved together with desperate tenderness, discovering each other with reverent touches and whispered encouragements. The small room became our entire world as we made love with the urgency of people who didn't know if they'd have tomorrow. Later we lay tangled together on the narrow cot, skin cooling in the desert air. Erin's head rested on my shoulder, her hair spread across my chest like silk. That was... she started. Perfect, I finished. I was going to say life-changing, but perfect works too. I stroked her hair, marveling at how right this felt. What happens now? Now I make some calls, use my corporate connections to find out who's really bombing these mines. She propped herself up on her elbow, looking down at me with determination. Someone wanted you framed, and I'm going to find out why. Her phone buzzed with an incoming call. She glanced at the screen and frowned. It's Cameron Kelly, FBI. My blood went cold. Don't answer it. I have to. If I don't, they'll know something's wrong. She kissed me quickly before answering. Agent Kelly? Yes, I'm fine. Still at the mining facility. I could hear the man's voice through the phone, official and suspicious. "We need to talk, Miss Powell, about your relationship with Thea Cooper." Erin's face went pale as she listened to Agent Kelly's voice through the phone. I could make out fragments of his words: obstruction, harboring a fugitive, federal crime. "I understand your concerns, Agent Kelly," she said carefully, "but I haven't seen Miss Cooper since the incident at the facility." She disappeared before I could speak with her. The lie rolled off her tongue smoothly, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. "We have security footage showing you helping her escape?" Kelly's voice carried clearly in the small room. "I was injured, twisted my ankle. Miss Cooper simply happened to leave during the confusion." Erin met my eyes, her expression fierce. "Surely you don't suspect me of terrorist activities?" "Right now, Ms. Powell, I'm questioning everyone's motives, including yours." The call ended, and Erin set her phone aside with shaking hands. "He knows," I said quietly. "Maybe, but he can't prove anything yet." She pulled on her clothes with quick, efficient movements. "We need to monitor the news, see what's happening." She activated the computer terminal in the corner, using her corporate access to pull up international news feeds. The headlines made my stomach drop. "Another mining facility bombed in Chile," she read. "Same MO as the previous attacks." I leaned over her shoulder to read the details. "That's impossible. I've been here with you." "Exactly." Her fingers flew over the keyboard. "This proves you're innocent. The real bomber is still out there." But even as relief flooded through me, I knew the damage was done. My face was plastered across every news channel as the suspected environmental terrorist. The truth might clear my name eventually, but not soon enough to matter. "Look at this," Erin said, pointing at the screen. "The bombing pattern. All 3 facilities were using new extraction techniques that minimize environmental damage." I studied the data. She was right. These weren't random targets. Someone was specifically attacking green mining operations. "Who benefits from making sustainable mining look dangerous?" I asked. "Traditional mining companies. Operations that refuse to modernize, companies threatened by environmental regulations." Erin's jaw tightened. "This isn't about environmental activism. It's about eliminating competition." The computer chimed with an incoming message on Erin's corporate account. She opened it, then swore quietly. "What is it?" "Emergency board meeting scheduled for tomorrow. They want to discuss my behavior regarding the Morocco situation." She turned to face me. "They're going to fire me." The weight of what she'd sacrificed hit me fully. Her career, her company, her entire life, all thrown away to help a woman she'd known for one day. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. "Don't be." She stood and pulled me into her arms. "I told you, I've been sleepwalking through my life for years. This is the first time I've felt truly awake." Her kiss was soft but desperate, tasting of fear and determination. I held her tight, wishing I could shelter her from the storm she'd walked into for my sake. "We should run," I said against her lips. "Both of us. Just disappear." "I can't. Not yet. I need to expose whoever framed you first. It's too dangerous. So is letting them destroy your life." Her green eyes blazed with resolve. "Besides, I have resources they don't know about yet. Corporate connections, inside information." Hours passed as we worked together, analyzing bombing patterns and mining company financials. Gradually, a picture emerged, a coordinated campaign to discredit environmental mining practices. As evening approached, the shelter felt smaller, more intimate. We shared rations and talked about our lives before this madness began. Erin told me about board meetings and quarterly reports, while I described fieldwork and geological surveys. "Do you miss it?" she asked. "The actual mining work?" "Every day. There's something magical about discovering what the earth has hidden, finding beauty in darkness. Like finding you," she said quietly. The simple words hit me harder than any grand declaration. I reached for her, needing her closeness more than my next breath. This time when we came together, it was slower, more deliberate. We explored each other with patient hands and whispered confessions. The outside world ceased to exist as we created our own universe in the small desert shelter. Her skin was silk under my fingers, her responses honest and overwhelming. We moved together like we'd been doing this for years, finding perfect rhythm in desperate circumstances. Afterward, we lay entwined in the narrow space, her head on my chest, our breathing slowly returning to normal. What are you thinking? I asked, stroking her hair. That I used to think happiness was about achievement, climbing higher, earning more, building bigger. She traced circles on my skin. But this feels like everything I've been missing. Even with the whole fugitive situation, especially with the fugitive situation. It stripped away all the pretense, all the corporate masks, left us with just truth. Her phone buzzed again. This time the caller ID showed Agent Kelly. He's persistent, I muttered. Erin stared at the screen, then made a decision. She answered. Agent Kelly, what can I do for you? Miss Powell, we need to meet, tonight. There's been a development in the case. My blood chilled. Erin squeezed my hand reassuringly. What kind of development? We've identified the real bomber. You and Miss Cooper are no longer suspects. My hands shook as Erin spoke with Agent Kelly. She's no longer a suspect. The words I'd been desperate to hear, but they felt hollow now that everything between us had changed. Where do we meet? Erin asked, keeping her voice steady. The mining facility. 1 hour. And Miss Powell? Bring Miss Cooper with you. We'll need her statement. After she hung up, we stared at each other in the lamplight. Freedom was within reach, but it felt like an ending rather than a beginning. This is good news, I said, though my voice cracked on the words. Yes, it is. Erin's smile didn't reach her eyes. You can go home now, back to your life, your work. The unspoken words hung between us, without me. We dressed in silence, gathering the few belongings we'd scattered around our temporary sanctuary. The desert air felt colder as we stepped outside, walking toward the car that would carry us back to reality. Erin, what happens after tonight? She was quiet for a long moment, her hands gripping the steering wheel. I don't know. The board will probably still fire me. This whole situation helping you escape. It doesn't matter that you were innocent. Corporate image is everything. I'm sorry I dragged you into this. You didn't drag me anywhere. I chose to follow you into that desert. She glanced at me, moonlight catching in her green eyes. I'd choose it again. The mining facility blazed with lights when we arrived. News vans crowded the parking area, reporters shouting questions as our car passed. Agent Kelly waited by the main building, a tall man with silver hair and sharp eyes. Ms. Cooper, he said as we approached. Glad to see you're safe. We need to clear up this misunderstanding. Inside, he showed us surveillance footage from the Chilean mine bombing. A man in coveralls, his face partially visible as he planted explosives. Marcus Webb, Kelly explained. Former mining executive, fired 3 years ago for safety violations. He's been systematically targeting environmentally conscious operations, trying to discredit the green mining movement. I stared at the screen. Why frame me? Your consulting reports were blocking several major projects. Webb saw an opportunity to eliminate opposition while advancing his agenda. Kelly closed the laptop. We arrested him this morning in Santiago. Relief should have flooded through me, but all I felt was hollow. This nightmare was over, but what about us? Miss Cooper, you're free to go, Kelly continued. We'll need a formal statement, but that can wait until tomorrow. Miss Powell, the media is demanding a statement from Powell Mining about the incident. Erin straightened, shifting into CEO mode. I'll handle the press. Outside, camera flashes exploded as reporters swarmed us. Erin stepped forward confidently, every inch the corporate executive. Powell Mining is committed to supporting law enforcement and environmental protection, she told the cameras. We're grateful that Miss Cooper has been cleared of all charges. The questions came rapidly. What was your relationship with the suspect? Why did you help her escape? What's next for Powell Mining? I watched Erin field each question professionally, revealing nothing personal. The woman who'd held me through the night was gone, replaced by the polished businesswoman I'd first met on that airplane. Miss Cooper, a reporter called out. What are your plans now? I looked at Erin, hoping for some sign, some indication of what she wanted me to say. But her expression remained carefully neutral. I'm returning to Denver, I said finally. Back to my consulting work. The crowd began dispersing as the story wound down. Erin and I found ourselves alone by her rental car, awkwardness stretching between us. So, she said quietly. Denver. Yeah, you? Back to New York, damage control with the board. She looked down at her hands. If I still have a job? A taxi pulled up nearby. My ride to the airport, arranged by Agent Kelly's people. I should go, I said, hating every word. Thea, wait. Aaron caught my hand as I reached for my bag. These past few days, I know. Do you? Because I need you to understand. What happened between us wasn't just about the adrenaline or the situation. It was real. My heart clenched. Then why does it feel like goodbye? Because we live in different worlds. You have your environmental work, your principles. I have a corporation breathing down my neck and shareholders to answer to. Her voice broke slightly. How do we make this work? I wanted to tell her we'd find a way, that love conquered all obstacles. But standing there in the harsh security lights, surrounded by the machinery of corporate mining, the distance between us felt insurmountable. Maybe we don't, I whispered. She stepped closer, her hand cupping my cheek. Can I kiss you one more time? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Her lips found mine, soft and desperate and full of everything we couldn't say. I tasted tears, hers or mine, I couldn't tell. When we broke apart, she pressed her forehead against mine. If things were different, she began. But they're not. The taxi honked impatiently. I picked up my bag, forcing myself to step away from her warmth. Take care of yourself, Aaron Powell. You too, Thea Cooper. I climbed into the taxi without looking back, afraid that if I saw her face one more time, I'd never be able to leave. As we pulled away, I caught a glimpse of her in the side mirror, standing alone under the desert stars. The airport was a blur of departure gates and boarding announcements. I sat in the departure lounge, staring at my phone, fighting the urge to call her. Instead, I opened my laptop and began typing a new environmental report, losing myself in familiar work. But every few minutes, I'd catch myself listening for her voice, expecting her to appear with that determined look in her green eyes. The plane to Denver was half empty. I closed my eyes as we lifted off, watching Morocco disappear beneath the clouds, taking with it the most intense 48 hours of my life. 3 weeks had passed since Morocco, and I still caught myself staring at my phone, waiting for a call that never came. Denver felt gray and lifeless after the blazing desert sun and Aaron's green eyes. The environmental consulting business was booming, though. Being an internationally cleared terrorism suspect had given me unexpected credibility. Mining companies were suddenly very interested in my environmental assessments, probably hoping to avoid their own media disasters. But success felt hollow when I woke up alone every morning in my sterile downtown apartment. I was reviewing water table reports when my assistant knocked on my office door. "Someone here to see you," Sarah said. "No appointment, but she says it's urgent." Through the frosted glass, I could see a familiar silhouette, tall, confident, wearing a tailored coat that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Send her in." Erin walked into my office like she owned the building, but I could see uncertainty in the way she clutched her purse. Her hair was shorter, more professional. Her face looked thinner, stressed. "Hello, Thea." "Erin." I stood up slowly, afraid that if I moved too quickly, she might vanish like a desert mirage. "What are you doing here?" "I came to offer you a job." Of all the things I'd imagined her saying, that wasn't one of them. "Excuse me?" "Powell Mining is restructuring. New environmental standards, sustainable extraction methods, full ecological impact assessments for all operations." She sat down across from my desk, crossing her legs with deliberate composure. "We need someone to head our new environmental protection division." I stared at her, trying to process this information. "The board approved this?" "The board fired me 2 weeks ago." My heart skipped. "What?" "Voted me out for helping an alleged terrorist and damaging corporate reputation." Her smile was sharp and bitter. "So I bought them out." "You bought out your own board?" "Hostile takeover. Used every connection, every favor, every dirty trick they taught me in business school." She leaned forward, her green eyes blazing with familiar determination. "Powell Mining is now a privately held company, with me as sole owner." I couldn't speak. The implications were staggering. "The first item on my new agenda," Aaron continued, "is implementing every single recommendation from your Colorado environmental report, starting immediately." "Why?" "Because you were right. About everything. The mining industry needs to change, and I'm going to force that change whether they like it or not." She paused, vulnerability creeping into her voice. "And because I missed you so much, I could barely function." The last words came out in a rush, breaking through her corporate composure. Suddenly she wasn't CEO Erin Powell anymore, but the woman who'd held me under the desert stars. "I missed you too," I whispered. She stood up abruptly, pacing to my office window. "I know this is crazy, offering you a job just because I can't stop thinking about you. But damn it, Thea, these past 3 weeks have been hell. For me too." I kept telling myself we were too different, that it would never work. But then I realized something. She turned to face me. "You didn't just challenge my mining practices. You challenged me to become the person I'd always wanted to be." I stood up, moving closer to her. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I restructured my entire corporation around your environmental principles. I'm saying I fired half my executives and hired marine biologists instead. I'm saying I want to build the kind of company my grandfather would have been proud of." She reached for my hands. "And I'm saying I did it all because I'm completely, hopelessly in love with you." The words hit me like lightning. I searched her face, looking for any sign that this was another corporate presentation, but all I saw was raw honesty. "Erin, you don't have to give me an answer now about the job," she said quickly. "But please, just tell me there's still something between us. Tell me I didn't imagine what happened in Morocco." Instead of answering with words, I kissed her. Right there in my office, with the Denver skyline stretching behind us and 3 weeks of longing pouring out through our lips. She kissed me back desperately, her hands tangling in my hair, pulling me closer. "I love you too," I whispered against her mouth. "I've been miserable without you. So, you'll take the job?" I pulled back to look at her. What exactly would my responsibilities be? Complete environmental oversight of all Powell mining operations worldwide. Unlimited budget for ecological restoration. Authority to shut down any project that doesn't meet your standards. Her eyes sparkled with mischief. Plus, extensive travel with the CEO for on-site inspections. That sounds like a conflict of interest. Only if you're sleeping with the CEO. I plan to be. She laughed, the sound filling my sterile office with warmth. "Is that a yes?" "It's a yes to everything. The job, the travel, the CEO." I kissed her again, softer this time. "The future we're going to build together." 2 days later, I stood in the Powell Mining corporate headquarters, watching Erin address the assembled staff. The same confidence I'd seen on the airplane, but directed toward something meaningful now. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to meet our new Environmental Protection Director, Dr. Thea Cooper." Applause filled the conference room as I stepped forward. Some faces showed skepticism, others curiosity. All of them would learn to respect environmental standards or find new jobs. "My first directive," I announced, "is a comprehensive review of all current operations. Any project that doesn't meet sustainable extraction standards will be suspended immediately." After the meeting, Erin found me in my new corner office. She closed the door and pressed me against it, kissing me with the passion of someone who'd waited too long. "How does it feel to have real power for a change?" she murmured against my lips. "Almost as good as having you back." "Just almost." I spun us around, pinning her against the door instead. "I'll need to conduct a more thorough evaluation." Her laugh was breathless and full of promise. "I love it when you talk like a scientist. You're going to love what comes next even more." Through the office windows, Denver sparkled in the afternoon sun. Somewhere in Morocco, sustainable mining operations were changing an industry. And here in this building, 2 women were proving that love could be the most revolutionary force of all. 1 year later, I stood in the same Moroccan desert, where everything had changed. But this time the landscape was different. Solar panels powered the mining operation. Water recycling systems hummed efficiently. And native plants grew in carefully restored habitats. "The environmental impact is down 87%, I reported to the International Mining Conference via satellite link. Profit margins have actually increased due to efficiency improvements." Behind the camera, Erin gave me a thumbs up from the shade of our air-conditioned command tent. She wore khakis and work boots now instead of designer suits, though she still managed to look like she belonged on a magazine cover. After the call ended, she wrapped her arms around my waist from behind. "How does it feel to be the most quoted environmental engineer in the world?" she asked, pressing a kiss to my neck. "Almost as good as being in love with the most revolutionary CEO in the mining industry." Our transformation of Powell Mining had exceeded everyone's expectations. 3 major competitors had adopted our sustainable methods. The stock price had tripled. Environmental groups that once protested our operations now held us up as a model. But the real victory was personal. "Are you ready for tonight?" Erin asked, spinning me around in her arms. I touched the small velvet box hidden in my pocket. "Are you?" "I've been ready since that first airplane kiss." We'd planned it perfectly. Sunset at the exact spot where we'd first hidden together, where we'd discovered that love could bloom even in the harshest circumstances. The ceremony was simple. Agent Cameron Kelly officiated, having become an unlikely friend over the months of cleaning up the terrorism case. A few close friends attended, but mostly it was just us and the endless desert sky. Erin wore a flowing white dress that caught the desert wind. I'd chosen a simple blue suit that brought out my eyes. We'd both agreed that traditional wedding roles didn't apply to women who'd rewritten the rules of an entire industry. "Thea Cooper," Erin said when the moment came, "you taught me that the most valuable things aren't found in boardrooms or profit margins." She slipped a ring onto my finger, a simple band embedded with small stones from every mine we'd successfully converted to sustainable operations. "You showed me that true wealth comes from following your conscience, fighting for what's right, and loving without reservation." My own vows were harder to get through. "Erin Powell, you risked everything for a stranger on an airplane. You threw away your old life to build something better." I placed my ring on her finger, my voice cracking with emotion. "You proved that love isn't just about finding someone to share your existing life with. It's about creating an entirely new life together." Cameron pronounced us married as the sun painted the desert gold and red. Our kiss tasted of possibility and forever. Later, at the small reception back at the mining facility, Powell mining employees mingled with environmental activists and international journalists. The same people who'd been enemies a year ago now worked together toward common goals. "Speech," someone called out as Erin and I cut our cake. Erin stood up, her hand finding mine. "A year ago, everyone told us this relationship was impossible. A CEO and an environmental activist, natural enemies from different worlds." She squeezed my fingers. "But sometimes the most impossible things turn out to be the most necessary. Sometimes it takes falling in love with your supposed enemy to discover who you really are." The crowd applauded, but I only had eyes for my wife. Yes, my wife. The words still sent electricity through me. "What are you thinking?" she whispered, as we swayed together to music playing from someone's portable speaker. "That I used to think my purpose was protecting the environment. And now? Now I know my purpose was finding you. Everything else was just preparation." She kissed me under the star-filled desert sky, surrounded by friends and colleagues and the distant hum of the most environmentally responsible mining operation on Earth. "So what's next for the Cooper Powell mining empire?" I asked. "Global expansion of sustainable operations, research into new extraction technologies, maybe a few more hostile takeovers of companies that refuse to modernize. And, personally, I plan to spend the rest of my life kissing my brilliant, stubborn, world-changing wife whenever possible." That sounds like the best business plan you've ever developed. As we drove away from the reception in our solar-powered Jeep, leaving a trail of dust and laughter behind us, I thought about that first, terrifying night in the desert. We'd been running from the law, sleeping in abandoned buildings with no idea what the future held. Now we were running towards something beautiful together, building a legacy that would outlast both of us. We'd proven that love could transform industries, that two women with determination could change the world. The desert stretched endlessly before us, full of possibilities we hadn't even imagined yet, and we had forever to explore them all. I hope this story inspires you to fight for your principles and follow your heart, even when it seems impossible. True connection has the power to transform our worlds and help us become our bravest selves. For more stories of love and transformation that will inspire you, subscribe to my channel for daily updates.